Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of Germany's most infamous and chilling unsolved mysteries, the Hinterkaifeck murders. This case is a tangled web of strange events, ghostly whispers, and brutal violence that has puzzled investigators and armchair detectives for 100 years. So grab a warm drink, get comfortable, and let's journey back to 1922 to a remote Bavarian farmstead that became the scene of an unimaginable nightmare. Our story begins on April 4th, 1922. A group of neighbors, concerned that they hadn't seen anyone from the Gruber family for several days, decided to check on the remote farm known as Hinterkaifeck. The mail was piling up, the family hadn't been to church, and young Cecilia hadn't shown up for school. What they found would haunt the community forever. Inside the barn, they discovered the bodies of Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 7-year-old daughter, also named Cecilia. They had been brutally murdered, their bodies stacked and covered with hay. The horror didn't end there. Inside the house, the search party found the bodies of the family's new maid, Maria Baumgartner, and Victoria's 2-year-old son, Joseph. It was a scene of utter carnage. The weapon, a pickaxe or mattock, was found at the scene, but the killer was long gone. The autopsy revealed that the victims had been killed on the evening of March 31st, a full 4 days before they were discovered. This is where the story takes an even more disturbing turn. The police investigation uncovered evidence that the killer hadn't just committed the murders and fled. No, this person had remained on the farm for days. The livestock had been fed, meals had been eaten in the kitchen, and the neighbor's dog had been let out. Someone had been living in the house, alongside the bodies of their victims, carrying on with the daily chores as if nothing had happened. They even tended the fire in the hearth to keep the house warm. Imagine the audacity, the sheer cold-bloodedness of living among the dead, continuing the rhythm of farm life while your victims lay just meters away in the barn. This chilling detail is what truly sets Hinterkaifeck apart. But as investigators dug deeper, they learned that the weeks leading up to the massacre were filled with bizarre and unsettling occurrences. Andreas Gruber had been telling people about strange things happening around the farm. He had found a set of footprints in the fresh snow leading from the dense forest to the farmhouse, but none leading away. It was as if someone had walked to the farm and simply vanished into it. Shortly after, he heard footsteps and noises coming from the attic. He and his family searched the entire property, but they found no one. A set of house keys went missing, and an unfamiliar newspaper from Munich suddenly appeared on the property. Andreas was a man known for being secretive and difficult, so he never went to the police. He just confided in his neighbors, telling them he felt the house was haunted. Just 6 months before the murders, the previous maid had quit her job abruptly, claiming she heard voices, and that the house was definitively haunted. She left in a state of terror. The new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived on the very day of the murders. She was killed within hours of starting her new job, her life cut short before it had even truly begun at Hinterkaifeck. So, who could have done this? The police were baffled. The motive didn't seem to be robbery, as a large amount of cash and valuables were left untouched in the house. This suggested the motive was personal. Over the years, more than 100 suspects were questioned, but no one was ever charged. One of the most prominent theories revolved around Victoria's deceased husband, Karl Gabriel. He had been reported killed in the trenches of World War I, but his body was never recovered. Some soldiers from his regiment later claimed they had seen him alive after the war. This led to the theory that he had faked his death, returned to Hinterkaifeck, and committed the murders. Why? Rumors swirled in the village about an incestuous relationship between Victoria and her father, Andreas. In fact, they had been convicted of it years prior. There was also widespread gossip that little Joseph was not Karl's son, but Andreas's. Could Karl have returned in a jealous rage to wipe out the entire family? It's a compelling theory, but without a body, Karl Gabriel remained a phantom. Another suspect was a local man named Lorenz Schlittenbauer. He was a neighbor who was believed to have been Victoria's lover and the possible father of Joseph. He had a contentious relationship with the Gruber family, especially Andreas. Schlittenbauer was also one of the first people to discover the bodies, and his behavior at the crime scene was considered highly suspicious. He moved the bodies around, potentially contaminating the scene, and seemed unusually familiar with the layout of the house. Some whispered that he killed the family in a dispute over financial support for Joseph, or to finally be with Victoria, only for things to spiral out of control. He was questioned extensively, but there was never enough evidence to convict him. On his deathbed years later, he reportedly made cryptic statements that some interpreted as a confession. But it was never definitive. Then there are the theories about drifters or vagrants. The farm was isolated, a perfect target. Perhaps a drifter was hiding in the attic, as the footsteps suggested. Maybe the Grubers discovered him, and he killed them to silence them. This would explain why he stayed on the farm. He was familiar with it, having lived there in secret. It would also explain the lack of robbery, as his primary goal might have been shelter, not theft. This theory, however, doesn't quite account for the sheer brutality and the targeting of every single person, including the children. It felt personal, not random. The investigation was plagued with problems from the start. Forensic science was in its infancy. The crime scene was contaminated by the dozens of people who walked through it before the police properly secured it. In a truly bizarre final chapter to the physical evidence, the heads of the victims were removed during the autopsy and sent to Munich for further examination by clairvoyants, a sign of the desperation and the unconventional methods used at the time. The heads were eventually lost during the chaos of World War II, meaning the full remains of the Gruber family could never be properly laid to rest. A year after the murders, the farmstead was demolished. It was as if the community wanted to erase the horrific event from the landscape, to tear down the building that held so many dark secrets. But you can't demolish a memory. The story of Hinterkaifeck lived on, passed down through generations, becoming a dark piece of German folklore. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved. Every few years, a new lead or a new look at old evidence sparks a flicker of hope, but the trail always goes cold. German police cadets still study the case, and in 2007, a group of students from a police academy re-examined all the evidence using modern investigative techniques. They came to a conclusion about a primary suspect, but did not release the name out of respect for the suspect's living relatives, as the evidence, even with modern technology, was still circumstantial. So what are we left with? A ghost story, a tragic tale of family secrets? Or a cold case that, with one missing piece, could finally be solved? The footprints in the snow, the noises in the attic, the killer who lived with the dead, it's a mosaic of terror that has fascinated and horrified people for a century. What do you think happened at Hinterkaifeck? Was it the vengeful husband, the scorned lover, or a complete stranger hiding in the shadows? Let me know your theories down in the comments. I'd love to read what you all think. Thanks so much for watching and for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most disturbing mysteries. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. It really helps the channel out. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.